right. So you sent over some fascinating stuff on this Harold Shipman guy.
Yeah.
A doctor,
Yep.
but also like one of the most prolific serial killers in history. So
Really is.
we've got these excerpts from haroldshipman.txt to dig into. And I got to say,
Yeah.
this one's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it's really...
Like, it's like straight out of nightmare fuel, you know?
Yeah.
The person you're supposed to trust with your health,
Right.
the one who should be helping you heal,
Yeah.
turns out to be the one causing harm.
It's like the ultimate betrayal.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so unsettling.
Totally. And that's really what makes this deep dive so interesting to me.
I agree.
We're not just looking at the who and the what.
Right.
We're going to try and figure out the why.
The motive.
Exactly. What could drive a doctor to do something so horrific?
Well, to understand that, we need to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Harold Shipman was born in 1946 in Nottingham, England.
All right, so middle of the 20th century.
Yep.
Right.
Seemingly normal upbringing. Nothing that stands out as particularly unusual.
Okay.
But one event that we should really focus on is the death of his mother
Okay.
from lung cancer
Oh, wow.
when he was just 17.
So he's there.
Yeah.
He's seeing his mom suffering.
Right.
He sees her needing morphine for the pain.
Exactly.
Is that what we're thinking? Some sort of trigger.
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Some psychologists have suggested that experiencing death at a young age,
Okay.
especially in a close relationship,
Mm-hmm.
can sometimes lead to a sort of desensitization
Yeah, I could see that.
or even a morbid curiosity about death.
Right.
But it's important to remember that this is just a theory.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah,
It's not like everyone who loses someone reacts this way.
exactly.
But in Shipman's case,
Yeah,
it's definitely something that sticks out.
it's a significant detail.
Yeah. So then he goes to medical school,
Yeah.
becomes a GP.
Uh-huh.
Seems like a pretty normal career path.
It does on the surface.
Right. But is that where things start to go sideways?
Well, that's where we get our first real glimpse of the darkness.
Oh, okay.
In 1975, Shipman gets caught forging prescriptions
Whoa.
for pethidine.
Forged prescriptions. Okay.
It's a strong painkiller.
All right. So he's dismissed from his practice,
He is.
goes to rehab,
Yeah,
and then he's allowed back into medicine.
incredibly, yes.
So you'd think this is where it ends,
Mm.
right? Like he gets caught, he gets punished.
Just like the system worked.
Right. But that's what's so messed up about this whole thing.
Exactly.
This pethidine thing.
Right.
The addiction, the dismissal.
Yeah,
It's a giant red flag.
a huge one.
Why wasn't it taken more seriously?
Well, we're talking about a time when the understanding of addiction as its disease,
Right.
it wasn't as developed as it is today.
I see.
So it's possible they just saw this as a one-time thing.
Okay. A lapse in judgment.
Right.
But could it have been a sign of something much darker?
It's a chilling thought.
Was it about more than just getting high?
It's possible.
Like, was it some kind of twisted need for control?
Control over life and death.
Yeah, it's unsettling to think about.
It really is.
And this whole thing becomes even more significant when we look at his later crimes.
How so?
Shipman's MO was often injecting his victims with lethal doses of diamorphine.
Essentially, medical-grade heroin.
So the pethidine incident,
Right.
it wasn't just a random thing.
You're connecting the dots?
It could have been a precursor.
Like a test run.
Yeah, like a glimpse into the methods he would later use on a much larger and scarier scale.
I think you're onto something.
Didn't the system fail by not recognizing the potential for something way worse?
It's a question that haunts this case.
Could they have intervened more forcefully?
Perhaps.
These missed opportunities keep popping up in Shipman's story,
The other recurring theme.
and they become even more tragic when we look at what happens next.
What's that?
Shipman moves to Hyde.
Okay.
Fresh start, seemingly.
Newtown knew him.
Right. He builds up this successful practice,
Hmm.
becomes popular, especially with the elderly.
And unfortunately, that's where his deadly plan really starts to take shape.
Oh, no.
Building trust, especially among a vulnerable population,
Right.
it gave him the perfect cover.
That's terrifying.
It's a chilling example of how someone can manipulate our basic human instincts.
Oh, our need to trust those who we think are there to help us.
Exactly.
Ugh, that's heavy stuff.
It is.
So we've got Shipman, like, embedded in this community. Everyone trusts him.
Right.
And we know now that that trust was, like, totally misplaced.
A tragic misplacement of trust.
Yeah, for sure. So what starts to tip people off?
Well, it wasn't just the sheer number of deaths that were
Wow.
happening under Shipman's care.
Okay.
It was also the really strange circumstances surrounding those deaths
Okay.
that really started to raise some eyebrows.
Gotcha. So, like, what do you mean by strange circumstances?
Well, a local undertaker named Alan Massey,
Okay.
he began to notice this unusual pattern.
This is where it gets creepy.
Well,
Like, a lot of Shipman's victims, mostly elderly women,
yeah.
they were found sitting upright.
Often in an armchair
Okay.
after they had died.
I mean, that's not how people usually die naturally, is it?
No, it's very unusual.
Yeah.
The typical posture for someone who's died in their sleep
Yeah.
or from a sudden heart attack,
Mm.
it's quite different.
Right. You'd usually expect them to be lying down.
Exactly.
So Massey's observations
Yeah.
combined with, like, just the sheer volume of deaths.
Yes.
Those were the first cracks in Shipman's facade.
The first hints that something was terribly wrong.
Okay, so Massey sees this pattern and he's like, whoa, this isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to a doctor, Susan Booth,
Yes.
who actually worked in the same practice as Shipman.
Can you believe that?
It's wild. You'd think that would be it, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Like, game over, Shipman's caught.
But unfortunately, it wasn't that simple. Dr. Booth, she did share her concerns with the authorities,
Good for her.
but the initial investigation didn't really lead to any concrete action.
Imagine the frustration.
I know.
Knowing something's wrong but not having the proof?
It must have been agonizing.
So why wasn't more done at this point?
Well, it's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but it's likely a combination of factors.
Okay.
Shipman himself was very charming.
Right.
He had this carefully cultivated persona of respectability.
Yeah, everyone loved him.
He seemed so caring that it made it hard for people to believe
Yeah.
that he could be capable of such evil.
I mean, it's like the whole wolf in sheep's clothing thing, right?
Exactly.
But it can't just be that, right?
You're right. There were also some systemic issues at play.
Okay.
The communication between different parts of the healthcare system,
Yeah.
it wasn't as strong as it is today.
Oh, I see.
So there were definitely some missed opportunities.
And those missed opportunities had some really awful consequences.
Tragic consequences.
Yeah. And then 1998 rolls around
Mhm.
and Kathleen Grundy dies.
This is a pivotal case.
This is the one that really changes everything, right?
It's the beginning of the end for Shipman.
Tell me about Kathleen Grundy.
She was an 81-year-old widow,
Okay.
a very prominent figure in the community.
Yeah?
She was even a former mayor of Hyde.
Wow.
When she died, Shipman signed her death certificate.
Like he had done countless times before.
Exactly.
But something's different this time.
What's that?
Her daughter, Angela Woodruff,
Right.
she finds something shocking.
Oh,
There's a new will.
a new will.
Yeah, and guess who gets everything?
Don't tell me.
Harold Shipman.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's like straight out of a bad movie.
It's almost too obvious.
It's like he wanted to get caught.
Maybe he'd gotten too cocky.
Right, like he thought he was untouchable.
It's possible.
Whatever the reason this forged will, it was the final straw.
The smoking gun.
Angela Woodruff goes to the police.
And this time.
They finally listen.
Thank goodness.
Things start moving fast.
Oh, so.
They exhume Kathleen Grundy's body. They do a toxicology analysis, and the results are undeniable.
What did they find?
Lethal levels of diamorphine.
Medical grade heroin.
And the handwriting analysis on the will
Right.
confirms it was a forgery.
It's all falling apart.
The jig is up.
The game is over.
Shipman's true colors are finally exposed.
The mask is off.
And once the investigation really gets going,
Yeah.
the full horror of what Shipman did starts to come out.
What happened?
The police, they start digging into hundreds of cases,
Oh, my God.
and the numbers are just staggering.
How many are we talking?
The official inquiry, they estimated that Shipman killed
Yeah.
at least 250 people
250 people.
over decades.
It's almost too much to comprehend.
I know. How could someone get away with something like this for so long?
That's the chilling reality of this case.
Yeah.
It shows us how dark human nature can be, the
Right.
capacity for deception,
Mhm.
the ability to manipulate, and it also shows how vulnerable our systems can be.
How easily trust can be exploited.
Exactly. How hard it can be to stop someone who's determined to cause harm.
It's a sobering thought.
So the trial starts in 1999,
Okay.
and Shipman's found guilty on 15 counts of murder.
15 counts.
But we know the real number is probably way higher.
Much higher.
He gets a life sentence.
Right.
But even then, it doesn't feel like justice, does it?
Why not?
Because Shipman never confessed.
Oh, wow.
He always said he was innocent.
Throughout the trial,
Yeah, and even afterwards in prison.
he never admitted to anything.
Never. He never showed any remorse.
It's
Never explained why he did it.
He took those secrets to the grave.
He did. He committed suicide in his cell in 2004.
Leaving behind so many unanswered questions.
So many families without closure.
It's heartbreaking.
And that's what we're going to talk about next.
Okay.
The aftermath of this case and its lasting impact.
I'm ready.
Shipman's suicide, it's like the ultimate middle finger, you know?
Yeah.
Like one last act of defiance.
He refused to be held accountable. Right. And he left behind all these unanswered questions.
A lack of closure for the families.
It's so frustrating.
It is.
Do you think he ever really understood, like, the enormity of what he did?
You mean the sheer scale of the suffering he caused?
Yeah. The impact on all those lives.
We'll never know for sure.
Right.
But some experts believe that people like Shipman,
Okay.
they lack the capacity for real empathy.
So they don't see their victims as actual people.
They might see them more as objects.
That's chilling.
It is.
Like they're not even human to him.
In a way, that might be how he justified his actions.
So maybe he created this mental wall
A separation.
between the caring doctor and the killer.
Like two different identities.
It's almost like we're trying to understand the mind of a monster.
Trying to find reason in madness.
But maybe there is no reason.
Perhaps.
Maybe it's just pure evil.
It's a difficult concept to grasp.
It is. And it's something we have to face, even if it's terrifying.
I agree. We can't just ignore it.
So we can't pretend that people like Shipman don't exist.
Exactly.
We have to learn from this.
So what kind of lessons can we take away from such darkness?
Well, for one, we have to be vigilant.
Always be questioning.
Don't just blindly trust authority.
Advocate for yourself and your loved ones.
Yeah, if something feels wrong, speak up.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
And on a deeper level,
Yes.
this case really shows the duality of human nature.
The potential for good and evil.
It's a sobering thought,
It is.
knowing that the line between those two
Mm-hmm.
isn't always so clear.
It's something we have to remember.
We can't afford to be naive.
No, we can't.
This has been a really heavy deep dive,
It has.
but also super important.
Absolutely.
Thanks for helping me unpack all of this.
It was my pleasure.
It's so crucial to learn from these dark chapters in history,
So we can prevent them from happening again.
and I think that's a good place to leave it for today.
I agree.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.